Good morning and good evening, everyone. Welcome to Conformiq's webinar on Intelligent Test Lifecycle Automation in Agile. I'm Supriya Bonkar, and I head the marketing and communications for Conformiq, and I would also be your moderator for the session. So we will just start the session shortly, but before that, I just want to focus on some basic ground rules, like all the lines have been muted just to avoid the disturbance, so you won't be able to speak during the session. But in case you have any questions during the session, you can either raise your hand or you write over that question and send it over a chat to the panelists and speakers. That would be me and the speakers. And we would certainly take it over during the end of the session. So in case we receive a lot of questions and your question is not covered today, we would certainly reply back with the solution once the session is over. Just for your information, the session is getting recorded. So post the session, everybody would be receiving a copy of the presentation deck and the recording along with the speaker details, so that in case you have any concerns, you can reach out to them directly. So let's get started. Our presenters today would be Clark Kushran and Mallikarjun Rao. So what we have done is we have divided the session into two parts, where the first part would be taken by Clark. He is our sales VP and he's based in California. So he would, what he'll do is he'll talk about the product introduction and how we fit into client environment, and how we're adapting to the upcoming technologies. And the second part would be a short demo about the product, which would be taken by Mallikarjun, or Arjun as we all call him. He is our global pre-sales head and he's based in Bangalore. So I will just now hand it over to the presenters to get the session started. So Clark, over to you.
Thank you, Supriya. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. Appreciate it. We're going to go through a real quick set of slides. There's a lot to cover. I will try and be slow in my speaking for those who are not native English speakers, but if there's anything that is missed or misunderstood, as Supriya said, please reach out to us. We're going to cover a number of topics. Going to talk about challenges. I think this is something you've pretty well known, frankly. I think that I want to raise it, but just because if you're not thinking about it, we need to make sure that it's part of what your process is in engaging with clients. But then I want to mostly focus on how Conformiq works, our joint solution, and the benefits that come from that and where it's a good fit. I have some examples of customer use, and then another key point is going to be how do we work together? Because this is a collaboration. It's not just us tossing a software tool over the wall to you, but it's working together in field opportunities so that we can be successful. And then at the end, we'll have, after the demo, we'll have a Q&A session. So looking forward to your questions. Thanks for your interest. First things first, we're in a situation where we say, why the heck is it so difficult to do testing today? I mean, everybody's getting pushback, right? And it's really because there's no single problem that is needing to be addressed here. It's a combination. There's a push by all companies to get their product to market faster. But we know that there's ever greater complexity. It's not just in the user interface. It can be in the APIs. It can be in the end-to-end testing. It can be in lots of different multi-technology testing that has to go on. But beyond that, they're also pushing for lower cost. I don't know any of you that aren't working with a client that says it's okay to raise the price. They're always beating on you every year. Drop it 3%, drop it 5%. Come up with a new plan so that we can reduce our costs. So you as our consultant, figure out how we can do this more cheaply. And this is what we're going to talk about today. How do we solve all three of these, knowing that it's very complex to do this? But in the end, the overarching issue has to be, how do we lower the cost? So how do we take care of all these three at once? And that's only going to be through intelligent automation. Manual testing has been around forever, and it's not going to go away. But how do we virtually ended. There's always something that has to be manually tested, but we can't be going into a testing project with the idea that it's going to be manual. And when I say manual versus automation, I'm not talking about just execution. That's yesterday's thinking. If we're only talking about automated test execution, you're leaving out 2/3 of the effort. You're leaving out the test design and you're leaving out the test scripting. You can't do this fast enough. You certainly can't do it in Agile. You certainly can't do it repeatably if you have a major manual part to your process. It's too slow and it misses too much. If you think manual in a simple application, fine, but if you have to manually think of the flows and the positive and negative paths in a complex application, it's very difficult and very time consuming. So in the past, we've always done it just with happy path. You can't do that anymore. So the idea here is that you have to change, and manual was really there for a simpler time, and we have to realize that and move on. And when we talk about intelligent automation, to automate the automation, and this is key, the intelligence has to automate the automation process. And more, as you can see in this slide, the automated UI testing, automated API testing is going to make up 85% of the testing that needs to be done. And manual exploratory, yeah, I would even say that that's probably too high. Why? Because if you can click a button and automatically do exploratory testing or even full comprehensive testing with a click in a few minutes, why would you be doing manual? It's only a fact that if you can't automate it, then it makes sense. If you need to do something very, very simple, okay, fine. But if it's a significant test, even an exploratory test, there is a change that has to happen in the whole industry, and it has to move to automation, because as the World Quality Report says there, that's the #1 challenge in application development. And you, as solution providers to your clients, that's your #1 issue to resolve. You need to show your clients that you can actually change the process and deliver the testing that they need in time and at lower costs. And the way to do it is through technology. You have to be a technology leader. If you lead with people, there's always somebody cheaper. And anybody that's looking toward the future knows they can't look toward people. So you need to change your approach, and we want to help you do that. This is the flow that we see today. It's I'll call it the standard, CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous design, or continuous development. The process is broken up into steps, and these steps are typically defined by tools or people, different specialists within the flow. The idea here is that there is a process that you have to go through, and every time there's a change, you need to go through much of this process. I'm not showing a big loop back, but certainly you get to test execution, you've got to loop back to test design if there's a change. And if you're doing Agile, where you're constantly adding, you have to look at this as a way of adding additional information where you have to test in more of an integration way. You can't just test every code drop for every sprint, because it doesn't stand alone. It has to be tested in the context of the previous sprint code. So the point here is that this process is very simplistic because it assumes you move left to right. And then when you're done, you assume you move left to right. Very waterfall. Gone. That's history. But if we look at this as today's standard process, why doesn't it really work? Well, the issue is that it doesn't work because there's a big manual gap here. How do you do test design today? Well, we manually think of the test cases, and then we manually write them for automated execution. How can that be fast enough? How is it possible to make it fast enough? I have a 2-week sprint. Okay, maybe I can do a little bit of exploratory testing. Then what happens? I dump all the testing, all the full testing, comprehensive testing, regression testing to a regression team a month from now. And they find a problem. Then you have to go back to the project and do a fix-it sprint. That's not an agile process. That's a broken process, and this is why most of the agile teams out there today just aren't working right. They can talk about development at agile speeds, but honestly, for testing at agile speeds, nah. But you can come in with something that's going to make that work. Because what Conformiq has done, based on your expertise and your ability to use our tools, you can actually make a complete solution here that marries the different tools together from different vendors and uses Conformiq to bridge this gap that is in place today. The key here is that tools by themselves are not going to answer or not going to provide the answer to good testing. But the issue is, if you don't have good tools, you're certainly not going to have good testing. So the idea here is that together, the ability to deliver, understand, have SME knowledge, plus the right tooling is the only way that a customer is going to be able to do agile testing. And it has to do with intelligent tools, because if you are just designing the test and you're using some flow chart or some tool that doesn't automate the execution of the scripts or automate the design of the scripts, you're still back to doing big gaps in the manual process today. So this solution you see at the bottom is the only solution that is going to work. No other tooling does that, and together we can deliver that to industry. Because honestly, your customers are really at this precipice. You know, they're trying to make it work. They're trying to put Band-Aids on what's being done. But how much further can they go with that process? And this is where you can come in to your opportunities, and you can talk to them as a consultant, not just a delivery of testing services, but as a technology consultant in testing, and say, you know, we can't be adding testers, increasing budget time. We now need to test, you know, in a CI/CD way. Let's talk about what we can do to really make that work. Because we, HCL, we understand how to do this. And the only way that's going to happen is that we automate the full automation process. We automate all the way through the entire testing process. We start from the BAs, we go straight over there all the way to the execution team. Everything is linked, everything is automated. The only way it can happen, because remember, we're not just taking this path once. We're looping it every couple weeks or every month. And there's always changes at the last minute. And there's a loop that takes, you know, no time to explain, but maybe a long time to execute. So we have to rethinking that this is a looping process that's going to happen all the time. And we need to have a plan and a tooling and an understanding that this can be done and how it can be done. Because you just can't toss it over the wall and say, sure, we're going to switch and we're going to make it work. It isn't going to work. Customer isn't going to work that way. When you go into a customer, if they're trying to do it on their own, it's going to be really hard. So really the point here is that they're not alone. You're going to make sure that they are successful. And you're going to make sure it because you're going to combine your testing experience with your testers and your analysts, your experience in verticals and different platform technologies, and our experience with Conformiq, and marry that with the capabilities that Conformiq has to combine to provide this solution that they need. And this is something where you're not just transitioning them, but you're also showing them how they can be successful going forward. because every year you've got to do it better. And you have to be able to deliver more for less. And this is a process that can do that. So the first thing you need to ask, and this is something you might want to take a copy of when you look at the slides, what are the client's improvement goals? Because we should be talking about what their problems are. What do they want to achieve? What do they want to improve? And they may not know. These are things you may suggest. You may say, these are the things that we really want to allow you to get rid of because we can eliminate them. And these are pretty standard issues that they're facing, independent of Conformiq, independent of HCL. These are the things that they have problems with. But the key is that with the solutions that we put together, they can eliminate every one of these and more. So come to us with the list of concerns they have, problems they have, things that you want to provide solution for so that you can win their business or expand their business. And then let's focus on these things so that you can demonstrate, or we can support you in demonstrating the solution to every one of these. So what can we do? Well, Conformiq is going to automatically think about this. It's going to automatically think of the tests and generate them for full execution. You're not drawing the tests. You're not thinking of the tests. The tool is thinking of the tests. This is intelligent. We're not talking dumb stuff here, remember? It's intelligent. So it's going to automatically think of the tests for you. Now, you obviously want to look at it and make sure that it's covering what you want, but it's doing the heavy lifting, and that's why it's so darn fast. And then it also has the ability to reverse engineer manual tests, because you're not going into a situation where every test environment is greenfield. Again, this is where marketing in the industry is so poor, because it only talks about agile in the sense of greenfield. Agile is enhancing something that is already in place. It's adding more capability. Well, you have to test the new with the old in an integration. You can't just do components by themselves and expect it's going to work. So let's think about the big picture here. So the key is that you have to take the information you already have, the existing tests you already have for your application, and you need to be able to marry those with the new tests that are needed for the new part of the application. So Conformiq can actually reverse engineer those manual tests into models, and you can then combine those with the new application and test them together. In doing that, we automatically eliminate duplications that we find or subtests that we find in the application or the manual tests that come in, and often it can be substantial. So if nothing else, it's given you a much more optimized set of regression tests to run. But at the best end, it can generate the models that you can take going forward. But if you don't want to do those models going forward, you just have manual tests, and I want to automate the execution of my existing manual tests, good or bad. We have the ability to do that too. We have the ability that we can use keywords to automatically execute, directly execute manual tests. You don't have to write scripts. So the idea here is to complete, a complete testing process. We shift left. We start at the BA level with very simple models of the flow. Get everybody on the same page. Make sure that we're all understanding this. The BAs, the stakeholders, the developers, the testers, everybody. Is this the way the tool, your application is intended to work? If not, let's fix it right now, because we can't wait till later and do an oops. So spend a few minutes here with everybody on the same page. This eliminates most of the issues that are found later. And then from there, you can add more detail. You can add more information as you had it. Incrementally add user actions, user interface operations. Combine those with the flow with more detail as you know them. And you can continuously loop on this. You don't have to wait till it's done. You can do it on the fly. And then you see the coverage. And then from there, you can generate your reports. You can generate your executable scripts. So it's a process where once you understand the flow and you all agree on it, everything else is automated. The key here is that it's repeatable, it's consistent, it's comprehensive, but it's at the speed that you need for Agile. And repeatable is key because, again, you're doing this all the time. For leveraging existing assets, a variety of formats can be imported, such as Gherkin feature files, test plans, ALM, Excel. We then go through and we have a process that uses AI, or AI techniques anyway, to create models that you can use for going forward. Now, one of the things that HCL's talked about is there's three keys that Conformiq delivers: speed, quality, and I'm going to say known quality because we provide that traceability. There's no other way to know what tests cover what part of your application. Did we do all the requirements? What tests cover what requirements? These are things that are critical for confidence to your customer, and those are delivered. But there was a third axis that was very important, and it was flexibility. Flexibility to fit into your customer's environment, because no customer is exactly the same as another customer, and customers never standardize on one particular tool. Different lines of business typically support different types of tooling. Different types of technology typically use different types of tooling. So the issue is that engaging with any major customer, it's not a one-off. It's a many, and it keeps growing. And so the key here is that Conformiq has an open API, and we link with these tools. And we're able to then support the multiplicity of third-party commercial tools and also open source tools. But there's one more thing that I want to cover here in the lower right-hand corner of this automated execution. There are custom HCL tools that we can link to directly, tie together to have a coupled solution, integrated solution. And then there's also proprietary, which really means your client. They may have their own custom platform. Conformiq can tie directly to that custom platform too. And any major customer probably has that. So the idea is to be able to combine these together in any form you want, to be able to have all the tooling that is needed for a complete end-to-end solution and do it in a completely flexible way. What are we automating here? We're automating a whole lot of stuff. The design of the test cases, the optimization of the test cases, what data is needed. The scripts are automatically generated for execution. The correct results are automatically generated. What a concept. We talk about test scripts, but you also have to know what the validations are. We generate those automatically also. The impact analysis with every change, what's still valid, what's no longer valid, what's new, automatically done. Traceability for everything. Documentation, every time you regenerate, you get new documentation that's updated. Linkage with all the different tools. The regression test suite is optimized because you know what every test covers, and you only take then current valid tests into your regression pack. You don't carry the old ones forward. Put them in your attic. Put them in some storage. And then linkage into the automated execution. The key here is that if you aren't doing all these steps, it's really difficult to say that you can provide continuous testing anywhere close to an agile development speed. Use cases is pretty much everything. Greenfield, mature, agile, back-end, front-end, API, mainframe, desktop, mobile. The point here is that it gives you the flexibility to do all this type of testing. And what are the benefits? This is a service provider information that was given back to us. They approached a customer, and this is what the traditional approach was. Using Conformiq, this is what they delivered. So if you go into a customer and you say, oh, well, I'm gonna quote 100. I'm just throwing out numbers here. I'm gonna quote 100 for my testing services based on people. Oh, but I have to add Conformiq, so I have to do 110. That's an extra cost. No. You add Conformiq and your 100 actually ends up being at about 60. The point is that the reduction of the capabilities that Conformiq delivers in terms of timing is about 50%. It really cuts the time, so therefore it cuts the cost. So you're not adding to your overall cost, you're actually reducing your overall cost by including Conformiq. And this is things that we can show, details that we can show, exact numbers we can show through proofs of concept, and we'll work with you on that. Another case in point, this one happens to be a leading pharmaceutical company. Look at the gains they had. They moved from manual to automated with Conformiq. How about a major bank? This is what they saw. Actually, this was a service provider, and they were planning to add 25 more testers to the project that they had. After 3 months of use on the project with Conformiq, they realized they didn't have to add those 25 people. So they could revamp their entire cost structure for their customer, or they could also put money in their own pocket, because this is about improving your profits, not just lowering your costs. And then another one here is an example, insurance company. You know, you've probably seen this. If you're in the U.S. and you go into any pharmaceutical or any, you know, Walgreens or CVS or any drugstore, you probably use this application, and you can see the improvement that they had. So, tool comparisons, because there's tools out there and people are going to ask you questions. Why is this one better than that one? Well, CA has a tool. It's really a test case optimizer more than anything else. That used to be the name, so we know it very well. It automates the test design. And people will say, yeah, I need test automation. Well, cool, but it only generates manual tests. You have to write all your scripts for automation. So if you think that the design is 30%, the full back end, writing the scripts and automating the execution 70%, they do a great job to give you about a 15% efficiency gain. But then you have other tools. We hear about Tosca all the time, or you know, UFT. Why can't I use the microfocus tools, UFT, LeanFT, etc.? Well, they really are all about automating test execution. You have to do a manual design of those tests. You code it in for UFT with VB scripts or Excel. With Tosca, they have their own template. It's like a spreadsheet that you fill in, and that generates the tests. But you still have to do that manually. So they don't do the manual test design part. CA doesn't do the manual, or I'm sorry, they don't do the automated test design part, and CA doesn't do the automated test scripting for execution part. But Conformiq does. Conformiq does both. And if we add transformer, it makes it even easier to execute, because you don't have to go through the pain of say UFT or Selenium, whatever, but you don't have to worry about mapping the scripts to the objects that you have in your execution environment. That's done very easily with keywords and transformer. The point is that Conformiq is delivering the full suite. This is where the huge difference comes, because now we're talking a 50% gain of the design and the execution. So we're talking 50% gain on 100, which is a 50% gain overall. And you saw from previous results that we easily achieve or exceed that. So the point being here is this is the thinking process that you need to have when you go in and engage with a client. You can't be thinking manual, oh, I'm going to add automation. You have to be thinking intelligent automation right from the beginning. That's going to be your differentiation. You are thinking intelligent automation and you are presenting it in that way. And the differentiation is going to be that Conformiq, of all the tools in the market, is unique in delivering speed, which is the optimization of the design of the tests and the end-to-end testing, 50% we talked about or better. Known quality, because we're the only tool that actually shows you automatically all the coverage, every path, every test, what it does and what it covers. And we're talking about the flexibility to fit into customer needs now and as they expand going forward. No other tool does that. Now we want to add more capability. What about flexibility to fit into your HCL environment? Nobody else does that either, only Conformiq. So this is why HCL is working with Conformiq and why we're working with you, because we don't deliver those services. We support you, but it's your solution to take to the customers. Real quick, who the heck is Conformiq? We were founded long ago, but it was a testing service company, and so we kind of understand what's going on in the testing market. But we switched over to be a tools company, and it's very difficult to be a service company and a tools company. We picked the latter, and we really focused on solutions for the enterprise and IT markets, with offices strategically placed around the world. Most of our team actually is in India. We've got R&D in Finland, where they do the engine work, but we've got a lot of support teams in India, both in Hyderabad as well as in Bangalore, and some development in Bangalore also. But why do we have them there? Because working with partners like HCL, you need to have support in your same time zone. You need to have support where the ODC is located so that you can actually get information and help and make sure that you're going to be successful and achieve the results we talked about. So we have teams there to work very closely with you to support you and make you successful. So how do we work together? And this is my last slide. We work together by being partners. We have an alliance agreement together. We provide you with software at discounts so that you can go in and have special low discounts. You can decide to sell the software, or you could decide to buy it and put it in bury it in your solution. It's really up to you, and we can work with you on how best to do that. We will provide you with POC support. Typically that's kind of a week. And why we think about POC might take manually 3 weeks. Conformiq can typically do it in a week. Now we want to be able to show the complete flow, so we want to be able to link to automated execution, which is a little difficult, so we have to work on that, because usually the execution environment is in the ODC and we can't get access to that. So we need to talk about how best we do that to show the full end-to-end solution and present it properly to your client. And so the idea is to work together in demand creation. Supriya is running that for us so that we can work with you and your customers. We can train. We have an online training program where we can spin up your internal teams as well as any client teams that you have and do that very quickly. We maintain those integrations because everything's changing all the time. All those other third-party tools aren't just staying the same, nor are we. We keep adding more and more capability very quickly every quarter. And we want to help you, and this is where I really want to focus here just at the end. We are going to focus on helping you qualify these opportunities, asking the right questions, understanding the answers, scoping the POCs and helping running them. So we can suggest KPIs that are important. We can understand what are the existing costs that they have so that we can compare those. We have to make sure it's a direct comparison. It can't just be better, right? It has to be how much better. And then look at delivering these POCs very quickly in basically a week. And so that you can take that to the customer and provide that as part of your your solution to closing the business. So that's how we work together. And I appreciate your time. And I'm running a couple minutes over. We're going to shift over to Arjun right now. And we're going to take it away with the demo. So hopefully this was interesting, and looking forward to your questions. Arjun, can you grab the screen?
Yes, Clark.
I'm going to stop sharing and switch over to you.
Yep. Hope everybody can see my screen.
Yes.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Good morning and good evening. So this is Arjun, as working as a global pre-sales head. And thank you, Clark. Thank you for the detailed introduction of the solution. And let's quickly jump into the demo. So as Clark has mentioned, like it is completely a test design automation tool. So the question is, how do we automate the test design process? Because the process that we know till now is like, once we have the functional requirements, we are going to write the test cases completely in a Word document or in an Excel sheet. And that can be taken towards the automation, post all the reviews and everything. Now, here we are using a technique called model-based testing, as the model sounds like the pictorial representation of the functionality of the application. So that do mean that we are going to draw the entire functional flow of the application from the application level. So instead of taking the bottom-up approach, like writing the test cases from the requirements, then mapping it to the requirements, and combining these test cases when there are multiple requirements in place, like this, we are going to start at the highest level, that is at the functional, that is at the application level, which will internally will cover all the requirements and the detailed set of test cases also. And currently for this demo, I'm taking the scope of a simple web application here. So this is how the web application works. Okay, so first I'll launch my application, and there are a couple of functionalities available, like I can enter my username, password, and click on the login button. Based on the data I provide, I'll be able to log into the application, or I'll be redirected to a error page, or I can go ahead and click on this register link, which will take me to a new user registration page, or I can go ahead and click on this forgot login info, which will take me to the forgot login info functional screen and for the next steps. So with this information, how quickly I can start my modeling and how quickly I'll be able to generate my test cases using Conformiq here. Now, as you see on the screen, I can quickly go ahead and define the activities or different steps that are required for the login functional flow only. Now you can see, like first I'm entering, I'm just creating a new page called customer login and clicking on the button. Then based on the data that I have entered, so either it can be travel towards this accounts overview or towards this invalid login. So now how do I decide which is a positive flow and which is a negative flow? So here in this fill form, the tool provides me an option to provide the test data also as part of this. See, if you do not want to enter any test data, yes, you can still create these kind of models, but in turn you will get the output as a high level test scenarios, because I am not providing the minute details saying like, okay, this is the data that you want me to enter, and this is the positive test case, and this is the negative data, and this is the positive data. So once you have the option to enter the test data, by validating those data values that I am entering, I'll be able to define at this particular decision saying this is a positive test case and this is a negative test case. So in this process, okay, I can quickly define my functional flow along with the test conditions here. So if you can see here, I can enter alternative values that are required for the username, or that can be possible for the username and password. Now, after I provide these kind of data values and any conditions, I can go ahead and say generate the test cases from this particular functional flow itself. Now quickly I will generate the test cases. So I can click on this generate test cases button. Now the engine behind the tool will start going through each and every test condition, each and every flow, and based on the condition that I have already mentioned, it is going to generate either positive test cases or negative test cases for me. Yes, that is done very quickly, and I can see 4 test cases are generated. Now the question is, where can I see the test cases? If you go to this particular place called Conformiq test review, we can quickly review these test cases. So when I say review, you don't need to open the Excel sheet and see all the test data conditions and each and every steps here. Those things can be achieved more in a kind of a visual format here. For example, I will select one particular test case and you can see the highlighted path. This is, this is the particular flow of this particular test case in the entire model. Now, if I select any other test case, this will point me towards the negative test cases. So I have generated around 3 negative test cases and 1 positive test case. Now this way I can quickly tell, or the business user also will be able to quickly understand, saying, okay, for whatever the model that I have created, these are the test cases and all the test cases are completely covered in the model. So this is one way to confirm the coverage of the functionality or the coverage of the test cases against the model. And another view would be, at the bottom you can see the test steps view. So as I said, if you select any particular test case, you can see all the input steps along with the expected results, along with the test data also. So this is nothing but the test case view. Once you export all these test cases to an Excel spreadsheet, this is how it looks like. So this is like an input with these data, username and password, and then click on the login button, and this is the expected result saying account overview screen is displayed. So with this kind of a view, the test analyst also would be able to quickly review the test cases more in perspective of a data coverage. So he wants to understand whether all the data conditions have been mentioned, covered or not. So here you can see one scenario like valid, and in this scenario you can see less than 8 characters and invalid scenario. Like this, he can quickly cover. Now so this is how I can quickly review all the test cases that are generated. Now since there is another point called optimization. See, whenever I have entered these kind of a data conditions, here itself I have the option to define the level of optimization I want to go. So now, for example, if you are in a system testing scenario, you have 4 different usernames and 2 different passwords. So how many test cases you will get out of these things? So it's 4 into 2, 8. But till now we have seen only 4 test cases. Why? Because the default setting here is referring to the optimized number of test cases. So what exactly is the optimization means? It will try to generate the minimal number of test cases to give a 100% functional coverage. But I can ensure the same thing by going for all combinations also. So by switching this kind of a quick setting, I can go ahead and say, okay, now generate the test cases. So this time it will generate the maximum number of possible test cases from the same model and the same data conditions here. So by switching a coverage option, I'll be able to generate either the maximum number of test cases or the minimum number of test cases from the same model without spending any effort, which will be helpful for my system testing or in the integration environment or a UAT scenarios as well. Now, when you go ahead and review the same set of test cases, you can see 2 different color combinations, color coding things here. So this will show me, okay, this will tell me like, okay, this is the newest test case that is generated because of the change in the model, and these are all the test cases which were not highlighted are the cases which were not impacted because of the change. That means when I do some change in the model, the tool will be able to calculate the impact analysis automatically and show me what are all the non-impacted cases and what are all the new test cases that I need to focus on because of the change in the model. So I don't need to spend any time manually to identify what are all the impacted requirements and test cases. This way I will be able to quickly identify and continue with the execution. Now, so I'm done with my initial modeling here. So in the same way, I can create these kind of models for small functional modules like registration of the page and everything. Now, if I wanted to generate the end-to-end test cases, I can create another activity or functional flow diagram, and I can connect them in more of a sub-activity diagram kind of a flow. So you can see now I am entering the URL, and I am already using this login here, and I am using the existing functionalities. Now, if I wanted to generate these end-to-end test cases, I can simply switch to this particular functional flow saying, okay, this is my main activity diagram. Now the tool understands in such a way like, okay, I need to start generation of the test cases from this particular start icon, and it will try to cover all the sub-activity diagrams or sub-functional flows which are already covered. And then, okay, when I say generate the test cases, now it will try to generate the test cases by covering all the functional modules which were already connected. Then I'll end up with my end-to-end test cases for the complete functionality. So with some small integration points and stitching together of the functional modules, I will be able to generate my end-to-end test cases from the same model here. Now, once the model is successfully created and reviewed, now the next step would be, I have reviewed my model and I got the optimal number of test cases. I'm comfortable with those test cases, the coverage and data points. Now, what would be my next step? So my next step would be convert these test cases to any of the tool, or if I wanted to go ahead with a manual execution, I can export the same model to an Excel sheet so that I can continue with my manual execution. But nowadays, most or 90% of the execution is completely automated using a lot of tools like UFT or Selenium or Tosca. Or for example, if it is the case of HCL, they are using a framework called Zero Touch Automation Framework, where this framework accepts the input in a certain format. Now, since I know my functionality, do I need to go ahead and create those kind of inputs manually? No, because we have already created one plugin for the HCL Zero Touch Automation, so that what I need to do is I just need to add those respective plugins here. So a plugin is nothing but it will help to convert the model to a respective format. Now I will take Excel as one plugin, and okay, it is already added, and HCL Scripter as another plugin, so that I can simply click on this export test cases button, so that I will get my manual test cases in the Excel sheet along with the output which is compatible with the Zero Touch Automation framework as well. So let the rendering process complete. This will take a minute or two, and once that is done, I can quickly see the output in both Excel format and the HCL format. So if you look at the Excel output format, this is how the test cases looks like. Now you can see I didn't write any of these particular steps. Based on the model, it automatically converts all these things to this particular format. And of course, this format is just for a demo purpose. Based on the format that is being used at the respective project, we can help you to customize the plugin so that it will start publishing the output in the respective format. Along with that, you will get a traceability matrix also saying, okay, this is the requirement and this is the particular test cases that are mapped with this particular requirement. So this kind of a traceability is also automatically generated from the model to Excel. And when you look at the output in this automation framework format, there are two sheets that are generated. One sheet is like the components DD sheet, which will give me the list of the test cases from the entire model. So you can see like this is the summary sheet, and you can go to each and every test case so that you can see what is the component name, what are the actions, what is the target and what is the value. So here is where you can see the data that I have already mentioned in the model. And when you look at the other sheet called component test data sheet, so this is a sheet where you'll be able to see all the test data with each and every respective component here. For example, this is the data that has been used in the model. So this is how the zero touch automation framework will accept as an input, and if I feed this input to the framework, then it can continue with the automated execution as well. Okay, so in any of the projects, if there is a scenario where the automation framework does not exist, or quickly I want to go ahead with the automation, we have another feature in this suite called transformer. So this transformer will help me to accelerate my test execution process. Now, if I convert this entire project to a transformer compatible, it gives me a hybrid automated execution platform on top of which the test suites, test cases and the keywords are tightly coupled. Now, if we can have a quick look at this transformer, okay, so this is how the transformer looks like. As the creator is completely talking about the test design techniques, the transformer is going to talk about the complete automated execution stuff, like what is the object repository that I need to use, whether it is Selenium or UFT, and the list of the keywords and everything. And when I import the project to transformer, you can see a test suite like this with all the test cases. And if you go ahead and open any of the existing any of the test cases, it will have all the keywords. A keyword is nothing but a test step which you have already defined in the model. Now if you select a particular keyword, and you can see all the respective components of the keyword, sorry, the parameters of the keyword are tightly integrated as I mentioned in the model. Now I just need to take care of only the implementation part, either using Selenium or using UFT. Now how would I go ahead with the implementation part? I can go to this keyword and you can see there is a tab called Selenium or UFT, and I can go to this Selenium and identify the respective object properties and map it with the respective keywords here. Now if I implement all the keywords, then the entire test suite or test case is ready for the execution, and the transformer has the capability to launch the execution using either Selenium or UFT, and post the execution, it will be able to generate the reports also within the tool itself. So in the interest of the time, I can show you any of the existing report here. So for example, so this is one of the report that has been generated after the execution. I can see like how many number of test cases are executed and what is the pass percentage and everything. And if I go to the bottom view, I can see the test case wise detail saying, okay, how many number of test steps are there in the test case and what is the status of each and every step here. So by default, if there is any failure, it will automatically capture the screenshot and the result will be mapped with this particular result, so that it will be displayed as a hyperlink, and if you click on the hyperlink, it will be linked to the respective screenshot. And as a result, I can export all these test results back to QCALM for better management and mapping with the test plans also. So this is how I can do a seamless integration, like creation of the model in a creator tool, embed the test data or integrate the test data from an Excel spreadsheet, define the functional flow using the widgets that are there in the creator, and load and generate the test cases, export to the respective formats like HCL framework or a transformer, and I can continue with the execution itself. So with this, I think, yeah, I'll pass on to Supriya for any questions.
Let me just jump in before we do that. Thank you, Arjun. I appreciate your quick demo walkthrough. We can certainly do more detailed demos for you. We can get into detailed Q&A on any particular opportunities that you have because everyone's going to be a little different. So we're happy to engage with you in that way and look at opportunities. In fact, I would like each of you to think about one opportunity that this may be applicable for. One opportunity in your list of customers, or one project if you're on a customer client project. Where might this be applied so that you can actually show something new? And it really starts to think differently when you say there is no longer a lead time to think of the test cases, to write the test cases, to do test design. It's basically a click of a button. I have done a graphical representation of the application. I've validated that it's correct with the stakeholders and all the other members of the team and the customer. Everybody agrees that's right. And you click a button. And I mean, it's basically that simple. Obviously a little bit more to it, but not much. So the amount of time it takes now to do test case design is zeroed out. And so this is something that is going to change the game, and this is why it's so critical when we look at test design. It's not just test design. It has to be intelligent test design. It has to be intelligent test design of the complete testing process. So thank you. I appreciate that. This is a change in thinking for the entire industry, and it's something that is going to be required going forward. So I am very excited to be working with you to prove this out to your customers and take it forward. So thanks for listening. Thanks for being involved. So Supriya.
Okay, all right. Thank you everyone for tuning in for the webinar today. Clark, Arjun for taking them to the details. Clark, I'm receiving some questions here. There's one interesting question on the POC front. Can you take it up quickly?
Which one are we talking about? I'm sorry.
On the modeling part from Mr. Lakshmi Narayan. How
the
are
first
the
one?
models? No. I'll just send it to you. The other questions I have already responded to. Here.
Help me out here.
Okay.
Yeah, probably, Supriya, I can answer
okay, sure.
question by Lakshmi Narayan.
Yeah, go ahead.
There are a few questions, like one question is modeling. So how the test models are created, is that automatic? So there are multiple ways to create these models. So one way is like if the application is starting from scratch, yes, these models can be created manually from scratch. Or if the application is already up and running, yeah, there are few accelerators available to automate the entire model creation process. And on test data, there is a question, can this be imported for each test case, or can we import multiple test data for the same test cases? Yes, we can import multiple test conditions for one test case or multiple test cases. So if you are maintaining these test data sheets externally in a spreadsheet, yes, we can import them and integrate them with the model. And test case generation, can we customize test cases once the Conformiq automatically generate the test cases? So the customization can be done in two different ways. One is the format, and the second one is like you will be able to add few more flags like priority, complexity, and the rest of the stuff. So
yeah, let me comment on that. Conformiq exports source code for the test cases in the format and the language you want for the tooling that you're going to execute. However, if you want to make a change once the script has been generated, you lose the link back to the requirements, you lose the link back to everything that you started with. So you've broken the chain. So can it happen? Yes. Should it happen? No. You should go back, and if there's a change that needs to be done, you should change the model, which is typically very quick and very easy, and then regenerate everything. And since regeneration is so fast, I mean, we see 80% efficiency gain, 80 for changes. So take an extra minute, make the change so that everybody's on the same page, and drive it forward. Now, there may be changes that you want to make for priorities and other things that Arjun said. Again, easily done, regenerated. But don't break the flow, because then you have to go back and recapture, and the entire process is then reverting to manual, and that isn't a sustainable going forward approach. Other questions?
Yeah. In continuation to that, there's a question on the cost as well, that how is it licensed, and is there a cloud version available, and how does the maintenance upgrade of the tool plan? And I think he's also interested in a POC, that if he wants to know that if they want to work on a POC, how should we plan this, and who should we reach out to?
Sure. Okay. Lots of questions there. The tool is licensed in a client server way. It's not on the cloud. Certainly that's something that you could do, but we don't track usage in the cloud in that way. So it's typically a client that runs on a desktop, but the server that where you use the license key, you check it out, check in, check out, or you could even run the test case generation on that server. And the flexibility is there to use that onshore, offshore. So there's ways that you can leverage the licensing globally. Now I'm lost track on the rest of the question. Oh, on POCs. And by the way, we look at pricing. The prices are less than a person. So we're talking about something that is not insignificant cost, but when you look at it as a comparison against your people, it's less and gives you huge value. So the benefits are there to be achieved even in the first year of delivery. And we license by annual, which is like an OpEx cost, like your people. We also license on a perpetual basis, which is a CapEx cost. Maintenance is on a perpetual. Maintenance is updated for every year. You can buy 1 year of maintenance. You can buy multiple years of maintenance, but every year maintenance provides you with the upgrades, support, new capabilities, etc. If you're doing a term-based, an annual-based, for example, it's automatically included in the cost of the license. The transition between annual and perpetual is roughly 3 years. The difference is at the end of 3 years with perpetual, you have an asset that you can reuse, resell, do what you want. So there's benefit in having a perpetual, although the upfront cost is obviously a little more. In terms of POCs, it depends on your location. If you're in the US or North America, South America, reach out to me. Any of the Americas, this is Clark. And if you're in Europe, we can provide you with a European counterpart of mine who would be the geo head there. If you're in India, we can provide you with our Asia Pac, or Asia Pac if you're also, in other areas in Asia. Near Far East, we have a country manager in India that handles that geo. So depending on your location, we can provide you with direct contact to engage in a POC to move forward.
Yeah, and just in addition to that, we work very closely with Vijay from HCL, and in case you want to reach out to Conformiq, you can route all your questions through him as well. So Vijay, you are unmuted. Can you just quickly pitch in here? Vijay? Okay, I think there's some problem with the line. Okay, there were other questions as well, and we are trying to answer some questions by text and some by voiceover. So I see most of the questions have been covered now. One important thing we also want to highlight here that we are currently working with HCL's products and platform teams also. So in order to extend Conformiq solution, like the HCL RFT kind of solutions, right? So this is something that I thought I'd just bring it up. And we will also schedule a follow-up session for Americas, HCL Americas and Europe region in another 2 weeks time. So, we'll probably follow up with you on those things as well, right? So I think we are good. In case I'm getting some more questions, let me just quickly.
And so I see Satish is here, Satish Monde. Satish, if you'd like to contact me, financial services area is one of our specialties. A lot of customers there. I think we could look at targeting some opportunities, and I think it would make sense that we talk to each other. I don't have your email address.
I'll connect you. Yeah. So I have email address. I'll probably
talk
connect
offline.
you.
Yep.
Yeah,
and I would say the same to anyone who has opportunities, or we can pursue and look at opportunities.
Yeah.
And as Supriya said, we are working, and I think Vijay said this, we are working with you, looking to work with your rational tools.
Yeah. So Vijay is not, I think there's some problem with the line. He's not able to talk, but he's just sent out a message saying that HCL is a partner of Conformiq, so we are eligible for partner discounts. I think there was a question on costing, so he's just added on to that, and Conformiq is flexible in pricing too, so I thought I'll just bring it out. We'll just take one last question by Rajesh. Will it allow us to import existing repository of test cases in any format?
Let me answer that quick. Arjun can give you more detail, but not in any format per se, but we do support Excel as the standard format mechanism if you're bringing in manual test cases. BPT and others would be imported differently, but we do have flexibility in the formatting of the Excel spreadsheet to match what you need. So that doesn't necessarily mean anything by anything, but it's very flexible to meet your format. So if there's something in particular that you have that you want to ask about, you could send us a little example. We have a corporate NDA in place. So if you could send us a bit of a snippet of some of that information, get it to Arjun, he'll look at it and be able to respond back. But the answer in most all cases is going to be, yes, we can support that import.
Okay, I think we are good in case the questions are still coming, but okay, all right. So I think in case there are any further questions, just feel free to, my email details are in the mail that you could have received earlier, or you can reach out to Vijay, and I will once this maybe tomorrow or on Monday, I'll send over the recording and the presentations, and I'll also there was some request with the connection, so I'll do that connection as well. So with this, I think we will conclude the session. Thank you again for joining, and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.